Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, driveway or the highway? I don't need your help. Okay mother. New car blues and tone-deaf salesman. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Driveway or the highway? I've already posted about my ex-boss and how she outwitted the council planning division, but this isn't her only exploit with cutting through red tape in her own way, though on this other occasion, she did have help. So, to give some background, I work in a hotel and have been here for a number of years through a change of management. My ex-boss, before the change, was something of a force of nature and a woman to be reckoned with. I shall call her by the title we all knew her as, Miss D, which was the initial of her surname. At one point, whilst Miss D was running the hotel, we had a regular guest who, whilst not being an A-lister, was something of TV celebrity here in the UK. For anonymity, I won't say who she was. Celebrity used to come to the hotel with her younger boyfriend, about who we didn't know that much. At one point, I came to work, to see a car parked up in the hotel drive. It was on the driveway leading up to the hotel and not in the actual car park. We just reckoned this was lazy parking by one of the guests and assumed that it would move once the guest either went out for the day, or after they checked out. Several days later, after all the guests who had been in the hotel that day had checked out, the car was still there. It soon became obvious this car didn't belong to a guest at all, but had just been dumped, half blocking the driveway leading up to the hotel. We checked the car out to find it had been left unlocked though without the keys. We decided to give it a bit more time and see if the owner would return to pick it up. Time passed and no sign of the owner, and the car was still there, in the driveway, requiring our guests to maneuver around it when driving up to the hotel. This was when Miss D decided it was time to take some action. I know, from reading other Reddit posts, that in the US, if a car is parked on someone's land without their permission, the landowner can just contact the right people and get it towed. However, here in the UK things are different. Miss D contacted the council to report the car and they replied that as it's on private land it's out of their jurisdiction. She then contacted the police, local transport authorities, basically anyone she thought would be in a position to help. Each time the response was the same. They only had the jurisdiction to deal with cars and vehicles abandoned on public highways and had no power to interfere with any vehicle on private land. Added to that, we were told that under no circumstances were we allowed to move it as we would be tampering with someone else's property. It was around this time that celebrity came along for one of her regular visits to the hotel. Her and Miss D got on pretty well, mainly as Miss D would give her preferential treatment due to the kudos of having a celebrity staying at the hotel. As Miss D and celebrity were chatting, the subject of the abandoned car came up and Miss D told her how none of the authorities would do anything about the car as it wasn't on a public highway. Like I say, celebrity always came with her younger boyfriend and, like I say, we didn't really know that much about him, but this was when we discovered a certain skill set he had. That night, he wandered down the drive, opened the car, broke the steering lock and hotwired the engine, managing to get the car started. This done, he promptly drove off, returning a while later on foot. He never told us exactly where he took the car and we never asked, but suffice to say, wherever he took it, it was somewhere well and truly in the jurisdiction of all the traffic-related authorities and they would have had no choice but to deal with it themselves and, as directed, we didn't interfere with the car ourselves at all. I don't need your help. While this is probably not the most satisfying story on here, I still enjoyed it very much. A little context beforehand. I work at a gas station to earn some money next to school. We have customers that have fleet cards from their company to pay for gas. Normal cards can be held on the display or stuck in the top of the device, whilst said fleet cards have to be pulled through on the side one specific way. Many customers don't realize this and try to use it like a regular card. I always explain to them once how to use it, and if they still don't manage to, I take the card and do it myself to speed things up, especially when it's busy. Most customers are happy with this because they don't have to figure it out themselves. Now in comes Karen during ultra rush hour. Keep in mind this is a small gas station with 4 pumps and just 1 register. All pumps were full and new people already waiting to pump. She wanted to pay with a fleet card, but after getting it wrong twice I explained how to do it, but she interrupted me being super rude, saying she doesn't need my help since she is a grown woman. I'm 18 but look a bit younger, while she probably was in her mid-50s. She eventually figured it out, but it still didn't work because she was pulling the card too fast. Think Among Us card task. I again offered to do it, but she cursed me out again. How dare I assume she's too stupid to do this. Okay. If you know everything better, then figure it out yourself. After maybe 2-3 minutes I began cleaning the coffee machine, which I had to stop a while ago due to it being busy. She became more and more angry until finally another customer who is a regular and had witnessed the whole thing stood next to her, quickly grabbed her card and did it. She also got pissed at him, but after a whole 10-minute wait and waiting customers already leaving, everyone was relieved she finally get off. Okay, mother. Sorry for any mistake. English is my third language. Another post reminded me of this story from when I was a kid. Excuse the formatting, I'm typing from my phone. I grew up in a different country than my parents and the one I was born in. When I was 12 years old we moved back there for 2 years. This is a country where there are many murders by poisoning food or drinks. My mother had warned my siblings and I not to accept food or water from anyone other than my grandma who lived nearby. One day, my brother and I were walking around the neighborhood and this neighbor and his wife invited us to eat with them, not unusual. We knew who he was, but we said no because of what mother had said. Needless to say, he was not happy. He went home with us to complain to mother about how rude we were. It is indeed considered rude in that part of the world, especially when the invitation is from someone of your parents' generation and people show their love and appreciation by feeding you. He complained about how he known us since we were 4, me, and 3, brother, always kept tab on us, we were friends with his kids, and now we had the audacity refuse his and his wife's food. Mother had to apologize and let him know that we were just following her instructions and not to blame us. He demanded that she gives us a specific list of people we could eat at, and she did. She later told us she was counting on our good judgment, and meant people she and father were not close to. New car blues and tone-deaf salesman. Apologies in advance. I'm ridiculously verbose, but telling the story is the fun part. I needed a new car. I had brought my car to the dealership because the brakes were making noise, again. That car had always been a bit of a lemon. I had just had the service department work on the brakes a couple months earlier. When they got back to me this time, I found out that not only did I need $500 for more brake work, but they wanted $1,500 to replace both of my front axles, on a 5-year-old car, and another $750 for other general services too. I had had enough. I had never been fond of this car in the first place. There was no way I was dropping a couple grand more into it. Oddly enough, this disaster of a vehicle is not the focus of this MC story. Just the impetus that started it all. It's early 2022 and buying a new car is a nightmare. Thanks to supply issues, nobody has cars. The plus side was that used cars were worth far more than ever before, so I could get a great payout for the nightmare vehicle. I looked around and to my surprise I found one of the cars I wanted was due to be at a local dealership by early the next week. It was a coin flip between 2 choices. That made my decision for me. So on the 4th of the month I sold them the car I detested and bought the new one. I left them the old keys and got a ride home with my wife, gleefully waiting for next week. Thanks to COVID, I had a home office I could work from, but the hospital where I work really wanted us back in on site as much as we could be. My direct boss is a great guy. He told me that a few days working from home while I was carless was no problem. It turned into a problem when next week my car was still not there. It had made it off the ship, but was stuck in some lot waiting transport. Okay. The world supply chains are a mess. What can you do? Dealership is great and they give me a loaner. Now I'm stressing a bit because the hospital parking garage has the tiniest parking spots and the loaner is a big beast. I'm terrified that this SUV, which is not mine, is going to be dinged or scratched and I'm going to have to pay for it. So for the rest of the week I drive all the way up to the top floors to find a corner spot which are wide enough for me to park with a reasonable sense of safety. It's only for a week or so, not a problem. Except it wasn't one more week. At the end of the week, still no car. At the end of the next week, still no car. I know this is such a trivial problem, considering what we had all just gone through. Still, I have to admit, that being told day after day that the car I was so looking forward to was trapped on a lot less than 2 hours away was really starting to take the shine off this transaction. All through this I didn't blame the dealership. The sales managers were awesome. My actual sales guy was kind of that fake too-smiley stereotype, which is why whenever I stopped in or called, I spoke to the managers, if at all possible. Finally, on the 23rd, my car was delivered to the dealership. The funny thing is that my other choice arrived a week earlier. I'm ecstatic. My sales guy asked if I can pick it up that day. I can't. I had a ton of work during the day and my wife had class that night. I needed her to sign with me. I suggested we do it the next day. Nope, the 24th was his day off. Now, it had been weeks. Everything that could possibly be done was done and ready. I asked, can't I just sign with someone else? Nope, he had to be the one who handed me over to the finance guys personally. I had no idea why, but the sales guy was insistent that the sale cannot be finalized on the 24th. I point out I have waited all this time and not complained much, and that the 25th was not really good for my wife. Nope. No, can do. Thankfully, my wife loves me dearly and took pity on me. She scrunched up her day to make time to get my new car on the 25th. So, we signed the papers the next day in record time and she headed back to work. While I'm there afterward, sales guy tells me that the woman who does the car walkthrough was out that day. I asked if she was in the day before and, of course, she had been. He muddled through explaining features to me but now I'm annoyed with him and wrap it up as quickly as I could. I'm still finding new stuff I didn't know my car could do. As I'm leaving here is where he keyed up the MC. He told, you are going to get a survey in your email. I really need you to give me all 10s. Anything less hurts me and the dealership. I looked at him a bit askance as I was getting into my new car to head home and he repeated. Please, remember. All 10s. So after everything, those were the last words he left me with. To clarify one more thing in this overly long narrative, I work doing research for my hospital. Data accuracy is a huge deal to me. I hate it when administration wastes nurses' time collecting bad data or when some researcher is hammering us for data extractions, flailing around for some sort of significance with no real hypothesis. So here was this guy telling me to give him perfect scores in a transaction that was far from perfect. To be fair, 90% of the problems they had no control over and they really had done just about all they could with getting me a loaner and getting my wife in and out the door as quickly as possible. I honestly didn't mind giving 10s. What I absolutely hated was the fact he was coercing customers into perfect scores and thereby skewing the sales data. This was the beginning of a multi-year relationship with this dealership. After the nightmares of the previous car, I really did not want to start it off on the wrong foot. So I did the honest thing. I gave 10s, and in every one of the comment sections I explained how the dealership, especially the sales managers, had earned these scores. I also wrote that I really did not appreciate being pressed by the sales guy into giving 10s. I noted how I almost didn't give perfect scores, specifically because I loathed being told I had to. The next day I received a text from my sales guy that read, "I would have preferred no survey over that survey." But he got his 10s. Why was he mad? I found out he left the dealership a few months later. I can't say I'll miss him. When I brought my car in for an oil change yesterday, I saw the sales manager again. He said he remembered my response. He had been a salesperson, so he knew about the "must give 10s" pitch. He also said until he read my comments he hadn't considered that he might lose those scores because people hate being told what to do. He informed me he had a talk with the sales team about it. I doubt they will change their methods much, but at least they will hopefully be a bit more tactful about it in the future. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.